We understand that our permanent electrical safety devices can't be installed everywhere, right? We understand that, we get that. We would love for them to be installed on any of your power distribution equipment, anywhere where you're performing lockout tagouts. However, we understand that there's a diverse need and unique applications require kind of unique solutions. And so because we understand that our products can't be installed everywhere, we actually are working on a solution called Proxxi by Grace. And so this is a smart PPE that is a wearable device that's rated for up to 500 kV, meaning that you can work on as little as 110 volts upwards of 500,000 volts.
Yeah, and the standard where it comes is 480 volts. AC is kind of the setting, but that can be changed depending on if you're going to do some work on that 480, where you can set it to a timer of, hey, I'm going to be doing some.
Sorry, it's a little challenging to orient myself here.
But if you're
hey, really quick, I'm going to launch this. We got some people dropping off as we're approaching the top of the hour, so I'm going to launch this poll here. I know we haven't gotten to every product yet, but if you got to jump off, go ahead and select what you're interested in learning more about, and we'll reach out to you guys.
I promise we will try to kind of keep this a little bit shorter and sweeter, just because we are running tight on time. 100%. I want to be respectful to you all, and I just want to make sure that we give a general overview of everything that's new. So let's kind of hammer through this, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. So with Proxxi, the main thing here is it's a wristband that's, so like Chris said, smart PPE that is wearable. That's going to give you a indication if you are around hazardous voltage. So it will vibrate, it'll beep, it'll flash at you, letting you know there is a presence of voltage, that whether it's 480 or whatever it is set to. So this comes in handy really when you're working around equipment that unfortunately may have not been updated in design for the engineering documents, or somebody made a change where there is still hazardous voltage present, and this thing will showcase if there still is hazardous voltage. So it's kind of like a redundancy factor of making sure you are safe and you're not accidentally sticking your hand into something that you shouldn't, or that can severely hurt you.
Yeah, I mean, so to expand on Ben as well, I mean, he touched on this. So there is a high and a low alarm. The whole idea there is we're trying to model that off of like an incident energy boundary, right? So like, depending on the type of equipment that you have, voltage, current, whatever it is, there's kind of an initial boundary of an arc potential. So that's the same idea here, right? So the low alarm will kind of alert you of that, hey, you're kind of crossing into that threshold of your exposure. This is the type of equipment that you're working with, you know, whether it's 480 or maybe it's a power utility line, things of that nature. But you're kind of making that initial crossover into a risky environment. The high alarm is like geared towards, you know, as you're about to stick your hand in and start performing maintenance, where you think that you've performed a lockout tagout in absence of voltage test, and it will notify you before you stick your hand where you're going to make incidental contact with a live conductor.
Yeah, I think a couple applications where we've seen this in is, one, even when you do properly electrically lock and tag out of a piece of equipment, you're still going to have voltage present inside the panel on the line side. So one, making sure people are aware of that is if you do stick your hand too close, or just making sure you stay away from some of those aspects. I had a conversation with somebody in Denmark that was actually interested in Proxxi based on that alone, is they wanted to make sure their team is staying away from that line side of voltage, as well as you might have hit the disconnect. I've had conversations where the disconnect is quite some distance away from what you're actually shutting off. So it might not always be certain if you shut off the right thing.
Yeah.
So you hit the disconnect and you're going to do your electrical lockout tag out, you open up, but unfortunately you hit the wrong one, which can easily happen. Human error is unfortunately a very common thing that does happen in the field. And so the Proxxi watch band is going to give you that redundancy factor of making sure no one is going to be entering a live panel. And if they continue, again, they are going to get that second alert, making sure like, hey man, maybe not. Let's take a step back here and not keep moving forward.
Yeah. I imagine that this complements our permanent electrical safety devices really well, right? So anywhere where you would love to have one of our permanent electrical safety devices installed, maybe you already have one, But if there's not an ability to install that, adding that additional redundancy piece and with the Proxxi Band makes a whole lot of sense. And in regards to kind of some of the deeper insight that's available, there is something that we have coined the Proxxi Pro plan. So if you wanted to kind of baseline and assess data analytics in terms of those daily interactions that your electrical workers are having out on the field, you can really start to trend that out and identify any areas that, hey, look, like looks like there was a close call. The alarm, the high and the low alarm was going off, and that there was kind of high exposure in terms of the voltage that they were working with. One thing that I always like to ask, and I challenge you to answer this question, is how many of you have had a close call? How many of you actually got shocked? Chances are I've done electrical work in my house. And believe it or not, it was just 110. I thought that I had isolated the room, the breaker in my house, but I was switching out an outlet and I didn't isolate it appropriately, and it stung.
Oh yeah, I mean, I started at the ripe age of 1 year old for experiencing some
1 year old and you're already experiencing shock. I don't know what the long-term risks of that are.
I was a very smart kid, apparently, but I stuck my mom's necklace inside of an outlet when I was young, and it wasn't ideal.
Imagine if you had the Proxxi Band at 1 year old.
1 year old, I could have been crawling around.
It would have been beeping at you and vibrating, letting you know that you're about to do something you shouldn't.
Yep. But we see quite a few applications with this, and I would say as a reminder too, a common question we get for our permanent electrical safety devices is this movable? Are we allowed to take this basically from one panel to the next? And as our PESDs, they're permanently installed. But the Proxxi side of things is the answer is yes for that. So if you're working, or if you're an electrical contractor and you're not necessarily in control or have authority over the equipment that you're working with, this is a way for you personally and for your team to say, yep, safety is going to be a thing we're going to take seriously about and implement this device to make sure our workers are going to be safe and efficient around that equipment, even when it's not in basically our control or authority to, make modifications to those equipments.
And one last thing to note as well with the Proxxi Pro plan, there is kind of some verbiage written in terms of, in the instance of an occurrence, right? And you're following kind of the processes and the data analytics that are available within the Proxxi Band. There are kind of financial incentives as well in the instance of if something were to occur from a insurance and liability standpoint. So we truly stand behind these products, and I think actions speak louder than words. And realistically, kind of having that built into the Proxxi Pro plan, I think reaffirms kind of our stance in terms of electrical safety.